This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Shalom Aleichem. We continue in Mishnah Berurah Daf HaShavua. We're learning Siman Tes. Eza begadim chayavim betzitzis ve'eza peturim mitzitzis. Which garments are obligated in tzitzis and which garments are exempt from tzitzis? We're going to adjust the questions that's on everyone's mind. Am I required to wear a woolen talis katan? That is one of the existential questions of life. Do I have to wear a woolen talis katan? Is it just better to, or is it a hiddur? Is it a lecharchila? What exactly is the deal with woolen talis? A woolen talis katan. Says the Machaba, Ein chai b'tzitzim atar ela beged pishtim oy shel tzemer rechelim. Aval bigdei sharminim eino chayav b'tzitzis ela midrabanan. The opinion of the Machaba, which is the opinion of the Rif, the Halachas Ketanois, and the Rambam, based on the Gemara Menachos Daf Lamed Tes, is that only two kinds of garments are chayiv in tzitzis midaraisa: linen and wool. Other minim are not chayiv in tzitzis, only midrabanan. Now that would be very important because according to the Mechaber, if the whole reason we wear a talis katan is to be mekayim the mitzvah daraisa of tzitzis all day, even when we're not wearing the talis, so certainly according to the opinion of the Mechaber, one should be zahir to have a woolen talis gadol, because that's the only way to mekayim tzitzis midaraisa. However, the Ramah shita is v'yesh oimrim. Some say dekulhu chayavin midaraisa v'hachi hochasa. Some say that all garments are chayiv midaraisa and tzitzis, and this is the halacha. This is the shita of Tosfos and the Rosh and the Smag and the Mordechai. So basically, the Mechaber aligns himself with the Rambam and the Rif that only wool and linen. And the Ramah Kedarkai also takes into account the Balei HaTosfos, and therefore he holds all garments are chayiv midairaisa in tzitzis. Let us see the Mishnah Berurah. Ella, the shita of the Mechaber is only wool is chayiv in tzitzis. Kedetani debei Rabbi Shmuel, like it was taught in the Academy of Rabbi Shmuel. The Alfinon Minagayim. We learn out from Tsaras. The parat be'akos etzemra pishtim. There, the Torah specifically enumerates one linen. It specifies one linen. Av kamakim the sivei beged akavanim etzemra pishtim. The opinion of the Tana Rabbi Shmuel is by Nigam by Tsaras. It says beged and it says wool and linen. From there, we learn out that whenever it says beged, it refers to wool and linen. Now, what kind of wool? The Mechaber said either linen or wool of a ram. Oy elim zacharim, or a male ram. So a Rachel is a female ram, and a ayil is a male. Avoshar kol aminim, other species could go in semer gemalim. So yeah, I know you have a camel in your backyard and you give it a haircut, about once every 6 weeks, and you want to know, can I make a talis out of it? No. You could go for a ride on your camel, but you can't use the tzemer for tzitzis for a beged, according to the Mechaber. V'noitza shalizim, the hair of goats, v'hashirim, and another type of material, v'tzemer arnovim, rabbit fur, v'chein kanvos, canvas v'chol kahagavna, einon b'chlal tzemer upishtim, v'einon b'chayim b'tzitzis rak midrabanan. So all of these other types of material are only chayiv midrabanan. V'tzemer Rachel bas eiz, and the wool of a ram that's the daughter of a goat. So she's a very special yichus. They put on her shidduch resume that her mother is a goat. If the mother is a goat, then the descendant is considered a goat, even though it's really a ram, and it's pater midaraisa. Memela, the same din would apply in all these situations, that if you made tzitzis out of them, they only pater their species. You see, wool is chayiv midairaisa, and wool could pater all garments. However, other garments are only chayiv midrabanan, and they only exempt their species. So, if you made out of any of these garments tzitzis, then they only pater their species of garment. Let's say you have wool or linen, and you spun it with other species. In other words, the thread consists of strands of many different species. Im haroiv hu mitsemer upishtim chayv min haTorah. If the majority is wool and linen, then it's chayv midaraisa. Im lav midrabanan. Now v'davka im terafan v'tavan v'asmei beged. This is only if you basically spun it and you made a garment out of it. However, if let's say if the warp is from wool or linen and the woof is from some other species or the opposite, in other words, this halacha that we follow, the roiv, is only if in each individual thread, the majority of that thread is a material that's chayv midaraisa. But if, let's say, the horizontal section or the vertical section are not wool or linen, then everyone would agree that this garment is only chayiv midrabanan, ein chayiv l'deyazu rak midrabanan, afilu imruba mitzemro peshim. Even if it's majority wool and linen, the shasi erev l'chud loy chashav beged. The warp or the woof alone is not considered a garment. Now, what kind of string to put on it, we'll have to see ayin lekaman b'sivkata and yud gimel v'ayin b'be'er halacha. Now, very important, the shita of the Machaba. So if any Sephardim out there, it is very important for a Sephardi to wear wool tzitzis, to have a wool beged, because according to the Machaba, a garment of other material would not be chayiv midaraisa in tzitzis, only midrabanan. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah, and I think for today we're going to conclude with this Mishnah Berurah, Ella midrabanan. After tzarich levarach ab mitzvah she midrabanan gamkein. What do you mean only midrabanan? You would still have to make a bracha. Mikol makom nafkamina inyan kama dvarim. Nevertheless, it would make an nafkamina for many things. Number one, the yoseroy last is begish. Number one is better to wear a garment that you'd be chayv midaraisa. Number two, this arev loy tzitzis tevuyin lishman b'shaloy lishman. Let's say you had some kind of mixture of tzitzis that were spun lishman shaloy lishma. Vein loy tzitzis acherim, or you don't have any others. Or sheyish loy safek ala beged, or you have a safek on the garment imuchayiv b'tzitzis. In other words, there would be many differences. If you make a beged out of other material, then according to the Machaba, it's only chayiv midrabanan. There's room to be lenient in situations where you're masupik whether you're doing the job. Another thing, we know there's halacha gadol kavod abriya shadoicha lo yisasei shabbatayra. Throughout Shas it says kavod abriya is great because it pushes off a loisase, which literally means a lav. However, the Gemara always comes out not that way. Meaning, kavod abrios is good that it pushes off a derabanan. But kavod abrios will not push off a dairaisa. In other words, let's say somebody is walking in the street and all he's wearing is a Hugo Boss robe. And somebody says, hey pal, there's shatnez in there. You need to take it off in the street. It's embarrassing. Well, you cannot violate a lav because you're embarrassed. You would have to remove it. If it would only be shatnez midrabanan, you would not have to remove it. So the same thing over here. Imhu yoshu b'tzibur. You're sitting among the tzibur. V'nifsak echad mitzitziyosah b'chayil. And one of your strings of the tzitzis snap during the week. Dimhu midrabanan. If it's rabbinic, yesh laimar kavod abrios dochad rabbanan, and you don't have to take it off right away. Ayin mitzvah yud gimel. V'oid nafkaminos harbe ayin b'primagan. There are many other nafkaminos. Now, the Dirshu brings that later on. He brings many achronim that even if someone is wearing a talis that's chayv and says the arai, so you don't have to take it off. Why? Because taking off a talis b'tzibur is a genai gadol, and it would be doicha iser doiraisa b'shaval tasa. That's different than the case I mentioned. If you're wearing shatnez, wearing shatnez is considered kum va'aseh. So if you're wearing a shatnez robe, you would have to take it off in the street, even though it's embarrassing, because wearing shatnez is considered a proactive violation. But not putting tzitzis on a four-cornered garment is called a passive violation. So there are opinions that you do not have to take off the four-cornered garment. And we're going to hold it over here for today. We'll pick it up tomorrow in Sivkat and Dalid. And the bottom line of the Mishnah Berurah, where according to the Ramah, one would not have to go out of the way to wear a woolen garment. The Mishnah Berurah's personal recommendation is to do so. Okay, Rabbi Say, have a great day. Kol Tov.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.